What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Red Cedar Podcast. Now, it's been a couple days, been about a week or so since we went over Michigan State's basketball season and kind of just posted that, recap, going over everything that happened this season, the good, the bad, the ugly, and looking forward to the future for the program. But obviously now, kind of a slow period for Michigan State athletics as a whole. Obviously, we got some of the other sports going on right now. We got baseball, softball, all that other stuff, all the spring sports going on. We got spring football going on, which we're going to talk more about later this week and into next week with the spring game coming up next Saturday on April 20th. But right now, we're going to dive into some other things that happened this weekend, a couple big basketball games, obviously, and then at the end of the show, we are going to talk about a couple different Michigan State related things in terms of Mady Sissoko hitting the transfer portal and an assistant coach opening on the Michigan State basketball staff. So let's just jump right in. First, before we do that, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and hit that like button if you like the content. So let's just jump right in. First off, the national championship game on the women's side. On Sunday, the Iowa Hawkeyes against the South Carolina Gamecocks. This is the matchup pretty much going into the tournament that everyone expected we would get to. Caitlin Clark and Iowa kind of had a magical year all year. Every single record she's broke, she's helped, change the trajectory of, women's basketball as a whole, the viewership and everything. And it's just getting so many eyeballs on the women's game. And specifically this team as well, really the last, 2 years or so, kind of throughout the whole Caitlin Clark phenomenon coming up. This team and this group, especially this group of, seniors here that'll be leaving after this game, kind of helped change and put women's basketball, into a different stratosphere. Obviously, there's other, players around the country and, whatnot. Obviously, I'm a big Paige Bueckers fan as well. And then, you got Cameron Brink, you got Cardoza over at South Carolina as well. You got Juju out at USC. So just incredible. There's just incredible players throughout the whole NCAA women's basketball and the WNBA as a whole, and it was just great what this team and what this season really brought to get everyone's attention and eyes on the game. So talking about this game on Sunday, which I was just incredibly lucky to be able to be at, that a bucket list item for me, going to a Final Four and a national championship at that, first Final Four game in general. It's not even the first, the first day of the Final Four, it's the national championship game. It was just incredible, and really, throughout, the final score might not look like it's 75-87. South Carolina did win this one. It might not look like that, but it was a great game, through and through from start to finish. The first half, it was obviously, very close. Iowa started out incredibly hot. I believe that Caitlin did set a first quarter record. I believe she had 15 in the first quarter, and I think that set a record. I could be wrong. Do not quote me on that. I'll try to find that here. But as a whole, Iowa jumped out to a 27-20 lead after the first quarter. And then, as we figured, South Carolina would come back and punch back. They punched back 29-19 in the second quarter to go ahead and take a lead into halftime. And then the third quarter was really grinded out. The whole second half was really grinded out. South Carolina scoring 19 in both quarters and 13 and 16 for Iowa respectively to give South Carolina that 12-point win. Now, first for Iowa, we know Caitlin Clark, she, did her thing, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. She was 5 of 13 from the three-point line, 10 for 28 overall. As a whole, that's, what you're going to get from Caitlin and what you expect in a big-time game like this. We got the WNBA draft next week. I'd like to dive into some more of the top prospects eventually, probably later this week, maybe early next week, talking about where some of these ladies do get drafted. Would love to dive into their games even more. Gabby Marshall had 6 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, bringing that tough defense that she has all year. And then Kate Martin as well went all 40 minutes. All 3 of them went all 40 minutes. Caitlin, Gabby, and Kate Martin. 16 points and 5 rebounds for Kate Martin. And then for South Carolina, it was really just a flurry of everyone. You had Camila Cardoza had an incredible game at 15 and 17. Chloe Kitts had an incredible game as well, 11 points and 10 rebounds. Tahina Pau also had a great game, 14 points as well. And then off the bench, really, besides Cardoza, the player of the game, Tessa Johnson, going for 19 off the bench, and brought some incredible defense as well. Just overall, this was a great game. And actually, this, which we are going to get into the men's final next, this game actually did way better numbers than the men's final, which thought so going into the tournament and going into this Final Four that it would. It was about a 4 million difference. I believe it was 18.7 to 14. I could be wrong. Let me try to pull that up right now. Yep, it was 18.9 for the women Final Four matchup, for the national championship matchup, and then for the guys had 14.8 million. So just an incredible year for women's college basketball, incredible year for Iowa, and obviously an incredible year for South Carolina, going undefeated. Dawn Staley, just incredible coach, top two, definitely, without a doubt, in my opinion, top two in NCAA women's basketball coaching, and probably top two in general across all of college basketball coaching. The only person, honestly, on both sides right now that I could see possibly putting over her is Gina Auriemma right now. That's the only person that I think is on the same level as her right now. Obviously, there's a lot of great coaches on both sides. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up on the women's side. Then you jump into Monday night, the men's final between the UConn Huskies and the Purdue Boilermakers. This was kind of the collision course we all saw coming into the tournament. They were the, head and shoulders, more than likely two best teams all year long. I mean, 34-5 for Purdue on the season, 37-3 overall for the Huskies. And this was a game, it was close at halftime, but then, at times, especially even during the first half, you just saw UConn just had too many guys. They had too many guys. Really, the players on the wings and the guard position was the difference. For UConn, guys like Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, Castle as well. Those guys were just too much. And in terms of your guards and wings for Purdue, Fletcher Lawyer, 0 points. Lance Jones, only 5 points, was in foul trouble a lot of the night, which is kind of ironic because he is someone who is known as flopping, and a couple of times they actually called him for a foul against him as he was trying to flop. So I thought that was kind of funny, just obviously playing Purdue, a lot of times being a Michigan State fan, being in the Big Ten basketball fan as well. Just kind of an interesting observation there into this game. Really, the only two guys that showed up for Purdue was obviously Zach Edey, 37-10, and then Braden Smith as well, 12-8. But yeah, you need the other guys to step up for you. I mean, you only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys score. That just can't happen and expect to win a national championship game, or really any game, especially this late in the tournament. You can't expect that to happen. For the Huskies, Klingon was incredible, 11 points, and played some really solid defense on Edey as well. Yeah, Edey got his points, but you heard Hurley after the game, if you saw any of the clips, he was fine, which he did the what Tom Izzo usually likes to do, let Edey or let whoever the Purdue 7-footer is get their points, and then just try to shut the water off on the other guys, and they were able to do that as well. Tristan Newton, just incredible, 20 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds as well. Cam Spencer, the way he started out, he came out guns a-blazing. He was talking, he was in it, obviously having played at Rutgers before transferring to UConn. He had been in this matchup against Purdue before, but I thought the way he started, I actually texted a buddy of mine and was like, hey, I think Cam Spencer might win most outstanding player like tonight, or might be the player of the game, of this game, whatever. Obviously he slowed down a little bit, and water found its level there a little bit, but he had a great game as well, 11 points and 8 rebounds as well. Like I said, for Purdue, it's just the guards and wings just couldn't match up at all with the Huskies, and they executed their game plan to perfection. And that's back-to-back titles for the Huskies, the first time in college basketball on the men's side that this has happened since Florida did it back in 07, 08. So been about 15 so years, and it's incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard to let alone get to a Final Four, let alone get to back-to-back Final Fours. Winning it back-to-back years is just another level of hard. And hats off to UConn, hats off to Hurtley. I hope he stays there at UConn. Obviously, something we're going to get to as well here in a moment. Some rumors about him, getting offered a bag from different programs in the SEC specifically. But I think he's going to stay. I think he's going to stay there in UConn. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? I mean, what he's built there just seems kind of like a juggernaut, especially what they've done the last two tournaments specifically as well. Has a really good foundation there. 2 titles under your belt. Why would you walk away from that? They'll probably pretty much match any offer that another team will offer him. So, why not keep it together? Why not keep it together? Why not keep him there? But it'll be interesting going into the offseason. So let's just keep moving forward here a little bit. Now, here is the little bit of Michigan State that we'll talk about here. This happened a couple days ago now, but just obviously now getting to it. Mady Sissoko did enter his name in the transfer portal. Obviously, he was a senior. We were up in the air whether he was going to come back or whether he was just going to graduate and move on to the next chapter of his life, whether that was playing basketball somewhere or, anywhere else. He'd be successful in anything that he does, and we would support him either way, whatever he decided to do. He decided to enter his name in the transfer portal, and probably best for both parties right here. I think that for sure Michigan State is looking at a bigger wing who can shoot and obviously can rebound as well in the portal, but I think if there's a secondary option for them, they'll go after a big there in the portal. And, you really needed someone else to move on, whether from graduation, Mady and AJ, obviously, you needed one of them to go. So that obviously leaves the door open for you to possibly get 2 transfers, a wing and a center, and AJ come back as well. I kind of highly doubt. I'm a little shocked that we haven't heard anything yet about AJ, but I would be really shocked if he does come back for a 5th year next year. But anyway, Mady this year, unfortunately, it just never, it was just, he could never just put it all together, and I don't fully blame him. I think that's, obviously partially on him because he's the player, he's out there, but also on the staff as well. It was just never able to click. At times, he looked incredible. I mean, the great Mady moments on the aircraft carrier last year, the Champions Classic last year. At times this year, shoot, his last game, or second to last game, first round of the tournament this year. Incredible defense, and that's what he can bring if he gets into a spot where he can do it offensively and be in a position to put up some numbers offensively. His defense already is incredible, so I'm wishing the best for Mady. Always be rooting for him. Just an absolute incredible person on and off the court. So we should see where he lands here going forward. And then the other big news that happened the end of last week as well that we haven't got to yet is Mark Montgomery, Michigan State basketball assistant, takes the University of Detroit Mercy job. Obviously, wish him the best. I was someone who, I think I mentioned it on here a couple times, I was kind of, not Mark specifically. I thought he was a really good coach, Spartan Dog as well, but, I was kind of hoping for a little bit of change somewhere because I think the program as a whole just kind of need a little reset, not like a completely, wipe everything clean, fire all the assistant coaches, and, wipe the roster. I just think at a few key, spots that the program needs a little reset. Point guard, I think it does as well. I think the assistant coaching staff could use a new face as well, and whether that's someone who's familiar with the program, talking with some of the candidates I have wrote down here, or someone completely new coming in. I'd be surprised if someone comes in that has no ties to Tom Izzo, but or Michigan State as a whole. But yeah, we'll see how it goes going forward. I know Tom said he has about 5 to 7, I believe it was, guys he wants to interview going forward. So we'll see what happens. Some candidates that I would like to see is someone who's on the staff currently. John Borlich came over from Northwestern a couple years ago. He's a young, offensive-minded guy. You see him. He works on a lot of the out-of-bounds plays, the BOBs, the SOBs. He calls out a lot of those plays and a lot of those sets as well. And then someone else, a young, up-and-coming coach who coaching down at Bowling Green right now, Tum Tum. Obviously someone we're all familiar with here, 4-year guy here, captain here, played in the Final Four here, knows what Tom Izzo's about, knows what this program's about. I would like to see him get a shot. I don't know. I would be happy with either of those. Another name that has been brought up, and it's rumored that, well, full disclosure right now, we're recording this at about 11:30 on Tuesday night. So it was either today or tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow that this coach is supposed to be interviewing with Tom for an assistant coach position. It's from that school down the road, Sadi Washington. He is from Lansing, went to Western as well. He coached with John Beeline, and then Juwan Howard kept him on the staff as well. I don't really have a strong opinion on this. I don't know a lot about him as a whole, but you know, he's a Lansing guy, so a local guy, and he's someone who coached with Beeline, who I know Tom has a lot of respect for, and admires in the coaching realm as well. So I know that he'll have a lot of good contacts to get some information as well, see if he'd be a good fit for the program. But we'll keep tabs on this, see where it goes. I don't imagine this being a quick decision. I imagine probably it'll probably be a couple weeks before we hear anything significant about an assistant coaching hire. So yeah, let's just keep it moving forward. And then obviously we kind of briefly mentioned this earlier, but big news in college basketball as a whole. John Calipari leaving Kentucky to go to Arkansas. Definitely a interesting move, obviously, for Arkansas. Musselman went to USC about a week ago, and now they get John Calipari, which obviously there was a lot of talk at the end of the tournament. Is he going to stay? Does Kentucky want him to leave? You know, it seemed like a lot of people in the fan base kind of were, growing sick of Calipari, which, I mean, that's just not, I think it was Jay Wright at the, halftime or post-game spiel about Calipari. That's like not how you win in college basketball right now. You don't win with young guys. You win with old guys, with COVID years and transfer portal, all this stuff. That's not. So that's just and that's what Cal was good at Kentucky. I mean, look at that 2012 team with Anthony Davis. I mean, and even some of their other Final Four runs they had. Incredible freshmen, sophomores, young guys, and that's just not how college basketball is. So that's not shocking that the last couple of years they haven't been successful in March Madness and made deep runs or any runs at all, really making out a first weekend. But so interesting there. But now who does Kentucky hire? Obviously, which would just be hilarious names like Rick Pitino. You've heard obviously Dan Hurley, what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about UConn. But something that as Michigan State fans to possibly keep an eye on is, does this have a ripple effect on MSU coaching candidates in the future once Tom retires? Obviously, we're referring to here Nate Oates of Alabama. Obviously, young up-and-coming coach. A little background: he coached in Michigan at Romulus, and grew up in the profession in terms of high school ranks, going to Tom Izzo basketball coaching clinics and whatnot. So it was kind of that tier for when Izzo retires. We're not forcing him out here. Want him to stay as long as he wants, and want him to get that second natty for sure. But when he does retire, it was Drew Valentine and it's Nate Oates. Those are the two guys at the top of my list personally, and most Spartans' list. And if he was lured to Kentucky with all this money, then, that could be out the window. But he did release a statement on Twitter basically saying, hey, roll tide. He's staying in Alabama, in Tuscaloosa. So for now, put that on pause. Put any worry on pause for now. Obviously, we've seen this in other coaching searches as well. Coach says, no, I'm good, but then the school circles back and offers them a bigger bag and an offer they can't refuse, basically. We saw this with our last football coach. Originally said, nah, I'm good, and we went back, offered him again a bigger amount of money, and he said yes. Kind of wish we would not have done that in the first place, but hindsight is 2020, obviously. But that'll do it for this episode. Kind of a mixed bag here, but we'll be back. For anyone on the channel, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about Survivor, another episode post-merge, getting into some of that. Then we'll be back later this week to talk about spring football for Michigan State, with the spring game about a week and a half away at time of recording, next Saturday, April 20th. So thank you all so much for watching. See you in the next one. Peace out.